Good morning, all. As we enter into this service, let me remind those of you in the sanctuary, now would be a good time to turn off your cell phone. And those of you participating in Zoom, you have been muted by our host. Also, be advised that the service is being recorded and with the exception of joys and concerns, will be published online. Finally, if you wish, take a moment to arrange your own chalice at home. Self-care is how you take your power back. Layla Delia. Robert will light the chalice here in the sanctuary. Those of you at home are invited to light your own chalice now. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to leave yourselves muted. However, we want you and whoever's with you to sing as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. Please stand in body or spirit and sing the opening hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We are glad you have joined us today. Our UUCC sanctuary sits on land that the Salinan and Chumash indigenous peoples historically inhabited. We honor their contribution to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to gather in faith on their unceded territory. Let's take a moment to respect their legacy and protect their history as we occupy this sacred space. As Unitarian Universalists, We celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation run by the democratic process. We invite speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest that connect with the UU7 principles. Today's service centers around the third principle. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Spiritual growth isn't about a vertical ascent into heaven, but about growth in every dimension at once. It's spirituality in 3D. Growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to a God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its volume, its capacity, its size. We need souls that can take in the world in all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. We need souls that can love and be in relationship with all of this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. My name is Nancy Tolan, and I'm your worship associate for this morning's service. Hello. I would like to extend a special welcome today to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning. There's a few people I don't recognize, but maybe the rest of you know everyone. Oh, good. Well, it's good to have you. It's good to have you all. If you are not on our mailing list, please visit the UUCC website at uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. Members and friends, please check out what's happening, the e-blast sent to you every week. This is a great way to keep up to date on our latest news. If you wish to see this or any past service, the recordings can be found on the UUCC website and on Facebook. The membership committee invites non-members to consider joining the UUCC. Please contact Diane DeMarco or a person on the board if you're interested. Would the board members present please raise your hands? Thank you. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise to which we aspire. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any announcements that would be of interest to our UU community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. If someone needs more explanation, contact the person after the service. If you'd like to make an announcement, please raise your hand. When Andy or I call your name, please step up to the podium or unmute yourself, then speak. I have an announcement. The Moving Towards Racial Justice group, actually, assuming I can get permission to use the space, we will be showing one of each of the 6 episodes of the 1619 Project in the sanctuary on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. The next episode is called Music and will be shown June 28th. Again, assuming I get permission to use this the sanctuary, all are welcome. The episodes are approximately an hour long, and we talk for about half an hour afterwards. And you have an announcement? Okay, here's Shauna.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here with you. My name is Shauna Bluestar Newcomb, and I will be offering a little talk today, but I wanted to also invite you to the Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Code. We're able to do a screening after service today. The film runs about an hour long, and it's based on 40 years of my dad's scholarship, looking into the deep history with the Vatican papal bulls of the 14th and 15th century. And I really also think it's important for people to understand it's not just something that's happened in history long ago, but it's something that's happening all around us. And so I feel like that's something I'll talk about more today, but really illuminating the shadows that we're all experiencing and the deep history and the connections that many people don't know about that haven't been taught in our history books. The film has been opening hearts and minds throughout the world, and again, is based on 40 years of my dad's deep analysis and work into a lot of these things. So it's very educational, eye-opening about our original peoples and nations throughout the planet and how it's affecting all of us in this time. So thank you. I hope you can join us.
Dolores?
So tomorrow, board meeting at 3 o'clock here in the sanctuary. Then also, starting Wednesday through Sunday is GA, General Assembly here, that we're going to be streaming it. So probably not going to start, so it goes from 7 to 6:30, 7 a.m. to 6:30. And tomorrow I'll be twisting, Andy and Randy's arms about who's going to be here in the sanctuary to turn all this, to turn it on. And so there's a little grid that I'll have on the back board there. So take a look at it, and we're going to be showing, hopefully, we're going to be showing some on-demand classes that have already been recorded in these blank times, but we'll be showing the general session, which is very interesting and lengthy. So please come in and attend any times to drop in, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm not sure what Randy's and Andy have decided to do on Sunday. Sunday is the worship service from our time up until 9:15. So they might show it earlier than the 10 o'clock service. So do attend. It's the UUA General Assembly that you are part of. Thank you.
I would like to use these. Anybody else? Short person here? Yeah, short people. Okay, Andy? Anybody?
Yes. Lou, would you unmute yourself and share?
Thank you, Andy. Men's group meets tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the sanctuary this time. So we'll be there. See everybody there. Thanks.
Thank you, Lou. That's it from virtual attendees. Back to you, Nancy.
Thank you. Next week, Evelyn Cahan will present Carrying My Mother, Intergenerational Trauma to Liberation. Wait until your father gets home. Those are words that strike fear in a child's world. At least they did in mine. As a child, I was afraid of my father. He was huge and I was puny. He was gruff and honestly could have been cast as a drill sergeant in any production. My sisters often warned me about the belt, as in Dad's going to get the belt if you aren't careful. But honestly, my dad never got the belt. Although I grew up fearing my father, I now feel he was largely miscast as the ogre due to the societal norms and pressures of the time and his culture. My father was born in 1916, around the time many of your fathers were born. His mother died from the so-called Spanish flu a few days before his 3rd birthday. His stepmother had him sent to boarding school in 7th grade. He lived through the Great Depression and served in World War II. In short, his life wasn't easy, and society expected him to just tough it out. He did, and he expected us to tough it out too. My father filled the roles expected of him: to provide for the family, to be the disciplinarian, to fix things around the house, to pay attention to sports, and to leave most of the housework and parenting to my mom. He also had traditional expectations of me as well. But as the times changed and my father retired, a softer, kinder man emerged. I got to see a different side of him. He would read to his grandchildren. He learned to cook a couple of dishes. He traveled a bit, albeit mostly alone because nobody wanted to go with him. He built a bird feeder and set a pair of binoculars on the table so he could watch the birds. Mind you, he also grabbed a gun in a matter of seconds when I pointed out a lovely bird, a northern flicker. He aimed to kill, explaining that that's a type of woodpecker that's pecking holes in his house. After all, my dad was still my dad and not some tree-hugging softy. Fortunately, he lived long enough to expand his horizons and for us to notice a change. This is a picture of him on Father's Day when he was 102. He taught me many lessons, many of them unintentional. I see the men of our generation, and I am happy that the 60s and 70s encouraged you to all get in touch with yourselves more, to express your love to your children in more direct ways. It is difficult to break the patterns of societal expectations, but I believe the men here today struggled to be more involved fathers, more supportive of their children, more engaged with their spouses, more involved in household chores. And I applaud these efforts and think our collective children have benefited from your advances. I am confident that your children love you fully and wanted for you to come home with eagerness rather than dread. When I told my children to wait until their father came home, it was not a threat. Rather, it only meant we had to hold off eating dinner a little bit longer so he could join us. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as a part of your personal life. Express a gratitude, or perhaps offer an acknowledgement. Please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and concerns which may have gone unspoken today, but are also deeply felt in the community. Please join in singing the response.
May our words of joy and sorrow find solace in our hearts.
The first reading is a series of quotes with the attribution following each quote. Everything on the earth has a purpose, every disease an herb to cure it, and every person a mission. This is the Indian theory of existence by Morning Dove. When you stay on purpose and refuse to be discouraged by fear, you align with the infinite self in which all possibilities exist. Dr. Wayne Dyer. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life and the whole earth will become one circle again. Crazy Horse. We are stars wrapped in skin. The light you are seeking has always been within. Rumi. Let us now join in a time of meditation, of prayer, and of silence. Let us seek the quiet and the calm, laying aside our struggles. And in the silence, may there be a reverence in our hearts, a thankfulness within our spirit, and a deepened understanding of the meaning of our lives. Let us enter the stillness. Light, shine in, illuminate our inward view. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony. The second reading is by Mark Nepo from the Book of Awakening, Revealing Who We Are. No bird can fly without opening its wings, and no one can love without exposing their heart. It is perhaps the oldest of inner laws, and it's inescapable as gravity. There is no chance of lifting into any space larger than yourself without revealing the parts you hold closest to your chest. Anytime you hesitate revealing who you are, picture yourself as a bird perched on a roof, wings tucked at the side. To enter a relationship without opening your heart is to jump off that roof without spreading your wings. It is true that baby birds hesitate the first time out of the nest, but once tasting the air, it is in their nature to open and rise, and close and land. This is their life. It's ours too. The paradox, of course, is that we must trust that the power to lift and land for us is in revealing what we hide. Once revealed, these tender things become our wings. Practice. Sit quietly outside, if possible, and watch the birds open, lift, and land. Breathe freely, and as the birds take flight, practice opening and resting your heart. Please stand in body or spirit and sing "We Are Circling" by Buffy Sainte-Marie.
I thank Robert for helping me with this, and I think Randy's going to come down and play some drum. We are circling, circling together. We are singing, singing our heart song. This is family, this is unity, this is celebration, this is sacred. We are spinning, spilling together, onward, inward, creature to creation, holy mystery, Mother Earth, childbirth, this is celebration, this is sacred. We are spinning, spinning all together, we are singing over the rainbow, this is harmony, this is community, this is celebration, this is sacred. We are ripening, ripening together, babies, bozos, elders, and angels. This is how we grow, this is how we get to know. This is family, this is a sacred. We are circling, circling together. We are singing, singing our heart song. This is family, this is unity, this is celebration, this is sacred. You were just starting to rock. Thank you, Robert.
Today's talk is titled Tap into Your Spiritual Overflow, to be delivered by Shauna Bluestone. Shauna Bluestone Newcomb of Shawnee Lenape Zapotec ancestry has been opening hearts and minds across the world as an international speaker, visionary, spiritual guide, and mentor for change makers. In her dedication to personal and planetary healing, she helps to lead a global movement with her father, speaking out on the Domination Code. Shauna offers a fresh perspective with a model for a way forward with her teachings on the Reverence Code. Shauna is a powerful resource and guide to support people to live their most extraordinary life, seeing the infinite possibilities. She has created 2 life-changing courses, the Reverence Code Change Makers course and Sacred Feminine Rising. Shauna is dedicated to healing for the earth, all beings, peoples, and future generations in this time of the great shift, a return to what she calls the time that was before. Learn more about Shauna's work, sessions, and her upcoming courses at www.shaunabluestar.com. Shauna?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's very good to be here with you. So I want to talk about the spiritual overflow and just really tapping into your highest potential is the way I see it and possibilities. I also just want to begin as honoring our original nations and peoples and the land, wherever we may be, for those of you joining us online, and also for those of us here, honoring the Chumash and Salinas peoples. And I also just like to honor my own ancestors of Shawnee, Lenape, Zapotec origins. I'd like to also honor my father today, Stephen Newcomb, and of course my parents. Thank you to my hosts as well, and you Cambria. It's been very wonderful to be here already with you, so glad to see you all today. I also like to begin by offering a short prayer in my Lenape language, and I didn't actually begin in my early years. I didn't have that connection to my Lenape language, so it feels very good to be able to say these words to you, which I understand are more than 14,000 years old, is what I understand from my elders. And so I'll just say this very quickly. Kuhana gesheleming wanishi, ok wamawiltekeku in Emilian wanishi. Biok indikeshok, pechuhe kamakana yushi enta, wita kamika. Milinen welamasawakan, walatanamawakan. Milinen weltek tamakan, ichikaski ikalichi, bechi petausinen yushienta, wita kamika. Nanalekesh, wanishi. And wanishi means thank you in gratitude. So just saying we give thanks for all of the good things that are given to us. We give thanks for the waters and the sun shining upon us and each of the days that are given to us. We ask for good health and happiness. We ask for a good road to walk upon so that we may live a longer life upon this earth and doing our good work. Thank you. I also wanted to do a little short practice with you. So if you just want to kind of tune into your center, being very present in this moment, as we're sitting here together, maybe taking a nice deep breath in, and just feeling yourself connect with the earth and the energies around you. And then just rubbing your hands together, the palms of your hands, and just allowing that energy to flow. You might feel a little bit of a warmth coming into your hands. And then just move your hands very slightly, opening them, very small opening. And you may start to feel a vibration or an energy circling or a warmth there. You can kind of push it in and out a little bit. If you can't quite feel anything, you could rub your hands together again, but sometimes it's just right there. It's just like a little pocket or a little feeling of a sense of resistance or sparkling energy. You can practice this at home, but I wanted to bring that to our attention today because I feel like it's so important for us to understand that there's so much more to us than just what we physically see with our eyes or what we touch with our hands. And so there's so much more to our human potential. And this is part of we have that electromagnetic energy within ourselves and with our bodies. and it's all around us, and it's in each and every one of us. So I think that's so important that we understand that energy and spirit is in everything, and that's part of our original nations teachings of indigenous peoples throughout the planets, of really understanding that interconnection with all things, and that spirit and the sacred energies are in everything, in the rocks, in the trees, in the birds and animals, and even in the soils of Mother Earth herself. So just practicing that, I think, is good. And so I have my slides here. Many of us in these times have been, I've had many people come to me as I've been doing some work globally. People are saying, what's happening in this world? Everything just feels like it's turned upside down, and they don't know how to make sense of it. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that have been feeling anxiety or depression or loneliness. Certainly through the pandemic, there's been a lot of that. So just kind of asking yourself, like, how have you been feeling in these times, and reflecting on that? Does anybody feel a sense of anxiety sometimes, or fears coming up, or questions about these times? Yeah. So what I just like to point out is, in my work, I like to share that there's really an awakening happening, and it's something that's an evolutionary process that's allowing us to awaken, so that we can actually heal and come to a different way of being that's so necessary in this world today. So I will share my slides here. I look at it as a wake-up call. Oops, sorry about that. And so we're seeing things that are related to climate change, or even, things that are really serious, like we're seeing gun violence or abuses across all kinds of systems and these things. But I also like to say that, this is something that is bringing our focus and attention to this. The shadows are coming to the light in order to be witnessed and healed. And I think that's something that's part of our journey, that the more some people say, oh, I don't want to look at all of that bad negativity. And I'm not saying dwell on it, but I'm saying it's so important that we actually can see it, so that we can recognize where the problems are. Because I feel like also there's something that is bringing us together, a way of coming together. So many people are pointing fingers and at each other's throat, and there's a lot of antagonism, right, on certainly online. But I feel like there's also a deeper root to all of the issues and concerns that we're seeing. My dad and I speak to something called the Domination Code, and I'll speak a little bit more about that. And also certainly in the film that I offer after the service, that will give a lot more understanding of the deeper history of these things. But I feel like there's a common trauma that many people are feeling, not only personally, but collectively. And the more that we can see things like racism, or injustices in social aspects, or all kinds of things that are happening right now and being illuminated, the root down at the very bottom. Yes, it's important to say, okay, these things about racism or injustices in the world, but also looking at there's something much deeper as far as patterns of domination, dehumanization that have been passed down for centuries. And so I think the more that we can see that we have a common ground with that, then we can move forward in a higher way to say, okay, we're all experiencing this, but in our own unique way. And that allows us to have a deeper sense of compassion for each other. And also just seeing that there's a healing there, even though it's a little bit hard to see at times. Certainly we have this concern for the planet, and we've seen these intense weather patterns, we've seen the fires and floods, and animals going into extinction. These are all important things for us to see. But I really see also that there's these patterns of domination, dehumanization, overarching over the land, over peoples, this hierarchy of power and control, less than, better than. These kinds of patterns perpetuate these types of challenges that we're seeing. So, and then also I see that it's not only happening on a collective scale, but personally, we see this affecting our bodies and our hearts and our minds and our spirits. There's a sense of trauma that is intergenerational, that's been lingering on. And how do we come out of this? How do we overcome it and rise above it? And so that's a part of this that I think is so important. Really seeing the power and potential that you have, each and every one of you, within yourselves, and all of us have something more to offer at this time. Many people are feeling called to bring gifts or services, being in service to others. There's something within each and every one of us. Each and every one of you have something special to offer. And I think it's so important at this time, more than ever, that we really heed to that. We really listen to that inner call and that inner voice that's bringing forth something within your spirit. Your soul is here to offer a gift to this world at this time. And it's more important than ever, I feel like, in this time. So we're seeing that on the personal scale, the social levels, the global levels. And I see that these imbalances within what I see as the domination code really being in this perpetual momentum can be shifted into what I talk about, the reverence code. And that's coming back to this understanding of original peoples. And I feel like all over the planet at one time, we had an original spirituality that helped us understand that interconnection with all things and all peoples, a sacred connection to everything that is. And that's just been skewed because of this. I see as the original virus as the domination code. This isn't working. My slide is not moving. I'm not sure why. So I'll talk a little bit about my dad's work, and that was the next slide. There we go. So my dad's work, I don't want to spend too much on that, but his work has been for 40 years. He's been talking about this doctrine of discovery and how that was issued by the Vatican in these papal bulls in the 14th and 15th century. Bear with me here, just technical glitches. There we go. So in 2016, he was able to meet Pope Francis at the Vatican in Vatican City. He delivered his book, and I know it was, I think, an article that he had written. We've been in some talks with the Vatican about these Vatican papal bulls, and he called upon the Pope with his good friend and mentor, Virgil Kilstraight, talking about these papal bulls and the destructive effects that it's had on original nations and peoples throughout the planet. But also, I want to emphasize that it's not just original peoples of northern, hemisphere, what we call the United States now. Certainly, it's every continent across the planet, but also it's affecting all peoples, regardless of our ancestral backgrounds. It's affecting our planet itself. It's affecting life itself. And it's because of that domination, control over, power over. It's not necessarily bringing things into balance and harmony as they once were. So I feel like that's the important part of understanding that there is an interconnection to this work. My dad's book is called Pagans in the Promised Land, Decoding the Doctrine of Christian Discovery. And then the film that I will offer a screening for is The Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Code. And it follows a timeline where my dad's research and scholarship of this 40 years, really digging into these ancient documents. This was even before the internet and before computers. So he was on legal pads, and I feel like he was opening, Pandora's box. It's like kind of like the Da Vinci Code, putting the puzzle pieces together and dissecting Latin in order to bring forth this dark history that was in those papal bulls. I also like to emphasize that we're not pointing the finger at Christianity per se, or we're saying it's important that we look at the darker, deeper history it is the history that it was something that was issued by the Vatican and the popes in the 14th and 15th century, and then subsequent years after. So these things led to things like genocide and slavery, certainly destruction of all kinds of original people's cultures and languages, and we had such a loss of so many things that were held in balance and harmony for time immemorial. So to bring forth this history, I know that my dad has had a lot of talks with Vatican officials and bringing their history to them as well, because they don't necessarily know their own history and how this has deeply affected things. Certainly this pattern was there before the Vatican issued those papal bulls, with the introduction of civilization. So I really also see that going back to the time that was before is also part of our education at this time, and seeing what actually was there in place that held things in that balance and harmony for so many centuries. And it's fairly new, it's fairly recent that we've come to this time where, we've only just been, quote, the United States for not very many years, a couple hundred years, and yet we see so much destruction now. So I just want to honor my dad's work again and emphasize, encourage you to learn more about his work. My work has been more on the healing aspect of things, the spiritual side of things, and looking also, like I said, at the indigenous teachings. I speak about something that was the time that was before, and I'll share a little writing that I have on that. But I like this photo especially. I wanted to share this with you because a lot of times we don't see beautiful, smiling, happy pictures of our Native ancestors. We see like very sad, almost depressing kind of photos. And I feel like maybe that's a, it speaks to what was happening at the time. Their families were, slaughtered often. There's all this abuse and trauma, and they were losing their homeland and being forcibly removed to other places that weren't where they even knew. So there's a lot that was happening where, we're not seeing the slide, I don't know what happened. It's brought so much destruction to the peoples that, okay, it went away for a second. And so I think that's where some of those photos, old photos, they look kind of sad, but these photos, they looked really, it's saying, allow Zoom to access your microphone. Do I need to do something for that? And I just love this picture of the families where they're smiling and happy and the little babies are smiling. So I think it's adorable. So I like to share that. But just looking at the original and free and independent existence of peoples throughout all of the hemispheres, throughout the lands. I look at the original spirituality of Europe and the ancient traditions there. And I think that's important for us to acknowledge that there are original peoples of Europe, and some people don't put that connection together. So I like to emphasize that, of Africa, of India, like all of the places we don't necessarily focus on. We might just think, oh, Native Americans in the United States. But that's a limited understanding. It's like the vast expansion of all peoples. And again, emphasizing that we all come from this original spirituality, which I say is the reverence code that can bring us, it's a very basic thing of just honoring ourselves and that energy that's all around us within ourselves and each other, in sacred regard. So I don't know, I'm seeing something that says allow Zoom to access your microphone on the screen. I'm not sure why it says that on the Zoom part. But maybe it's not affecting other people seeing it. So we see that dominator as hero has been kind of what's been passed down to us. Conquest, war, greed, and corruption that has led to those things, like I mentioned, slavery, genocide, and abuse throughout, the centuries. And we're experiencing that now, we're seeing that now. And these patterns are also, people again, like at each other's throats at this moment. I feel like the more that we can kind of see what are the patterns of this domination code, and then what's the alternative of coming together with a deeper understanding for each other and compassion and understanding that we each and every one of us have trauma, but maybe it's just in a different way. It's just a different form for each person. That allows us to have a compassion to move forward in a different way, looking at each other with respect and understanding. I also see another part of this is the perpetuation of some of these old models that this idea of the myth of the evil witch, where so many of these beautiful, incredible healers and women throughout the ages, even across Europe, there's a history that many people don't know about with the witch trials. And I think that's important also for us to understand that legacy, because it helps us to understand the perpetuation of the things that we're seeing with women today and how that lingers on. Why are we still talking about an evil witch? Like the beauty and the magic and the wonder are women that knew about medicines and helping birth babies, and then that shifted. And so you can see these happen. There's timelines that are specific within the domination code timeline. And so that's what we're trying to help people understand, and the alternatives that are there. And really honoring these, women that had these knowledge and understanding before science and medicine as we know it today took over. And so many people actually became sick, or, it led to something that was about, but I learned that the original word for doctors was barber, which means to cut. So you see surgery or just drugs, rather than having a holistic model of understanding the body, mind, spirit, are all connected. And that was something that was taught in those original teachings. So we also see that concern of the great web of life and our disconnection. People have been disconnected from the land, disconnected from the earth. And how can we bring that back within an understanding of daily connection with the land? Aloha aina is something in the Hawaiian traditions as love of the land. And that's across so many of our indigenous peoples talk about that connection and that sacred understanding of sitting with the earth and really being in reverence. And that connection that I mentioned with that electricity, that goes up into our bodies and fills us like a battery. And so the more that we can connect with the land each day, that's really bringing us a sense of deep connection. So I want to read this really quickly before I go on. I have these messages that I sometimes get, and I'll just talk about the time that was before and share that with you. I think I have that. So maybe I don't have it on here. I'm not seeing it actually. But I'll share another message. This one is called A New Direction. The time has come to take ourselves out of the chaos and go in our own direction. This is about following a different path, and there are some who will not like it, and many who will not understand at first. Yet this is an important step in making the change. It is important to know in your heart that this is the path you want to follow, and that it is strength you find within yourself. It is hard to go away from the pack and carve your own trail, but this is necessary for change to occur. When you do this, do so with your heart leading the way and listen for your inner guidance to know what is true and what to leave behind. This is about finding what is essential and true and taking nothing else too seriously. There's much that can be left behind, and it will serve you in the long run. Once you find this place inside yourself, you will feel much lighter and find more strength and certainty. This is a good first step. There are some who will see that you are changing in this good way and notice right away that this is something they want for themselves too, and it will be a pattern to follow. This is also a necessary part of the process to have people learn the shedding of unwanted skin to reach their inner strength. It is a beautiful process when people find this place together, for it is a sign of good changes coming. This small trickle will then start to become more, and people will come to see what is happening and how this is working. Some will be intrigued and excited, and others will be upset by the changes and want nothing to do with it. It is not for the others to decide for anyone what is right or wrong. It is only that they find the changes within themselves and accept them in. It will all work out for the best. This is also another good first step. Now, once more, people come to this new way of being with lightness in their heart and a sense of renewal. This is when things truly begin to shift. This is when more and more people begin to feel there is something happening, and the messages begin to spread, and more people will begin to wake up to what they felt was missing before. They will let go of past hurts, angers, hatreds, and sorrows and begin anew. This is a time of renewal and to celebrate that there is indeed a shift. This is a time of coming together and support and community, and people begin to see the error in their ways. This is truly a powerful time. Next, we see that people find it less and less appealing to be in a world filled with chaos or violence or fighting, and their hearts really open up in a new way. This is when things begin to shift on a large scale, and people come together to make big changes. There is no tolerance for hate, bigotry, slaughtering, hunting for sport, racism, and all the isms and ignorant choices that come from fear in the world. Suddenly, there is a new ideal for coming together, and not about fighting the separateness. This is a new time of deep acceptance for differences and a realization of oneness on a bigger scale. So I received that message actually somewhat in a meditation. It was kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this message? But over time, I became brave to start to share my messages. And I feel like it's invited other people to share their messages. And I think that's part of this spiritual overflow that I'm wanting to emphasize is there are messages and dreams and all kinds of spiritual connections that are really awakening and coming through us to be shared and to be offered as gifts in service to others at this time. I just want to encourage that for you. I don't know how much time I have. I feel like I'm running out of time. In our sacred laws, we have the 7 sacred laws of the Lakota that I'll share, to care, to be generous, honor and respect, passion and pity, honesty and truth, patience, courage and humility, wisdom and understanding. When we have those first laws, then you understand the wisdom and understanding with all of them. And a foundational principle is really honoring the well-being of the people in our heart. So it's not just a me focus, it's a we focus. It's you and I. And I feel like that's something that we can start to adopt to really see that. Again, understanding those connections with the natural world and seeing our earth as a sacred being. Really honoring what lights you up and getting a sense of lightness of being, whether it's an exhilaration from something really high energy or really tuning in a deep presence moment, meditation. These are important pieces of our awakening right now. And then really just thriving, making a difference, doing what you love most. I think that's what comes naturally to you, that you can share your passions and your dreams, really following your heart. These are important to focus on. And then I talked about the time that was before. I speak about the Reverence Code and I offer my course. And I feel like people have really had a lot of, people have said it's been life-changing for them to not only watch the movie, but to go to my course. I feel like it kind of became a progression of those two things together. But really honoring your ancestral connections, wherever your ancestors are from, acknowledging nature as your teacher, understanding the Mother Earth, even the goddess connections that we don't usually acknowledge, having that spiritual connection with the natural world, and really honoring animals, all beings, even the star connections, elemental connections. These are things that are really often overlooked or dismissed in that domination paradigm. Opening up to your dreams and intuition and messages that you may have to share. Even songs, I feel like songs just come through us sometimes, and it's an offering, right? Something that's healing for people. And so these are some of the practices. I feel like just going inward into stillness and reflection, learning and understanding that this time of darkness, it's kind of like this caterpillar to butterfly moment. That caterpillar has to go into its cocoon, but there's a transformation happening. That's how we get our wings. And then clearing what no longer serves you, setting intentions of what you're co-creating. You really are a powerful being that is co-creating all the time. But I feel like we're learning to walk in the darkness. There's a light. We can be that light, but there's a light that's really being illuminated for us, and being able to see with the eyes behind the eyes, if that makes sense. We're learning to see in a different way in this time. And it's a time of awakening to that. So some people talk about the age of Aquarius, but we're definitely moving into a new time. The elders that I work with talk about the next 26,000 year cycle, and that we're opening to that in the coming years. So this is an important time for us to really envision, what do we want that future to look like, and how do we want to co-create that? Having a really present mindfulness about that. And so some of the things that you can do, like I said, connecting with that earth, walking in nature, also listening more. I feel like listening more, tuning into people and seeing what are they having to say, not just us always being the one that has something to say. Practice good deeds in service to others, speaking your truth also though, and living your purpose. Loving more, practicing more compassion for others, seeing from other people's shoes, and really thinking of community and all beings and planet as family. These are really important, beautiful ways that we can connect in a different way in your spiritual overflow. I wanted to invite you again to join us for the film, and we can take some questions, I believe. We have that as an offer, if you have any questions for me right now. I feel like right now we have a connection. People have been focused on me, but it is that we connectedness. And I think that was it. Just knowing that we're all in this together. And I really believe, even though it's really hard to see, that there is a brighter future. It's just that we're in this moment of kind of the awakening, and seeing that darkness is part of our coming through, that there's light on the other side. So just holding on to that as a vision for ourselves. Thank you. Any questions? We could take a couple questions. We can also have questions after the film as well. Yes.
Can we watch the movie on YouTube? Or?
We do have it available on Vimeo, so that would be an offering that we could do. And then, but today I can do a Q&A after the film. We usually offer it. Sometimes we'll have different groups, and we've been doing them on Zoom, so mainly during COVID and everything, that we just have an hour for the film, and then sometimes we have even an hour for questions with different groups in the past. So, any other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we are going to show the film here today after the service, in case anyone didn't know that. Oh, I know why I'm so tall. I grew up very small. Eventually I grew. Let's see. It's time for the offering. This morning's offering will now be given and received. Please remember, we are a self-sustaining organization and provide all financial resources for our many ministries. We recognize the spiritual value of generosity and invite you to participate. If you are viewing this service remotely, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you.
When the morning breaks and the sunlight warms my soul, in the east the eagle flies and the red tail proudly soars, I'm on my way to the place of the Spirit One. Grandfather, hear me now, I am on fire. Let the sun dance guide my feet to your desire. Give me visions for my eyes, the words like gold that shimmer in the sun. Hi-ya. Hi-ya, 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 hi-ya.
Our thanks for all the gifts given and received for the work of this community. Let us now sing in praise of our UU faith tradition.
Be ours a No, I don't want to sing that. But it's a great song. No wonder I was a little confused. There's 2 songs on this sheet. Okay. And I don't want the capo either. Have patience with me. Thank you. Okay. With ourselves and me, yeah. Okay. Okay. May your life be as a song, resounding with a dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dance in circles in the night.
Please stand in body or spirit and sing the closing hymn, Where My Free Spirit Onward Leads, number 324.
Where my free spirit onward leads, leads, well, there shall be my way. By mine own light illumined, I've journeyed night and day. My age a time-worn cloak I wear, as once I wore my youth. I celebrate life's mystery, I celebrate death's truth. My family is not confined to mother, maid, and child, but it includes all creatures, be they tame or be they wild. My family upon this earth includes all living things, on land or in the ocean deep, or borne aloft on wings. The ever-spinning universe, well, there shall be my home. I sing and spin within it, as through this life I roam. Eternity is hard to ken, and harder still is this. A human life is truly seen, is briefer than a kiss.
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, let us recite the valediction. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, we shall carry its glow onward. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. Please extinguish your own chalice at home now. After the closing words, we will take a quick break before showing the amazing transformative film of Ms. Blue Star and her father. Let's now form a circle and join hands. Shauna?
I can do it. Okay, so miracles and magic abound, just believe. Thank you.